Good afternoon, everyone. And let me welcome each and every one of you joining us today to this webinar from the Ministry of Agriculture with our theme, Investing in Agriculture for Poverty Reduction and Sustainable Development. We have with us, uh, joining us today, the Minister of Agriculture himself, Minister Zulfikar Mustafa. He will speak on this theme and what it means for agriculture in Guyana and the region at large, because it's not just agriculture here in Guyana, but it's regional, it's hemispheric, and of course, we see ourselves as a major player on the global level as well with certain products. So with that said, again, let me welcome all of those who are with us now, and I know quite a few persons would have had the link and must be trying to join at the moment. And I will speak with them as they come on. Um, and our main focus, as I said, is our team, and globally, we are looking as agriculturalists and people in agriculture to eradicate that extreme poverty and halving, if I may, poverty by 2030. And this is still, there's still so many major challenges to get that done. We are a small player at that level globally, but we are talking about some 767 million persons in the world that are living in the extreme poverty level. And that information would have been extracted from the FAO. So, in Guyana, we have our own challenges. So I'll now ask um, the Honorable Zulfikar Mustafa, Minister of Agriculture, to make his remarks. I know he has a very busy schedule. And then we will go on with the panel to continue our discussion today. Minister Mustafa. And let me hold a bit. I think Minister is trying to connect there. I think we're still awaiting Minister to join us on the live. So in the meanwhile, like I was saying, and I will just go this over for those who would have joined. One of our main tasks here is eradicating, or reducing in Guyana's case, poverty through agriculture and doing it in a sustainable manner, a sustainable way. So Minister has just joined us, and I will ask that he gave a brief on this entire team and what would have what would have been the thought process upon coming up with the team investing in agriculture for poverty reduction and sustainable development on the policy level and on agriculture level as a whole. Minister Mustafa, thank you.
Very much, Mr. Aditya. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure that I welcome all of you to this discussion on investing in agriculture for poverty reduction and sustainable development. This panel discussion will allow us to underscore, one, the role of agriculture in poverty reduction and sustainable development, and two, the increasing role of government to not only invest public funds, but to encourage private investment by creating an enabling environment. All of us would know agriculture is one of the pillars that sustain the Guyanese population and provides economic stability. Agriculture contributes 20% to the national GDP, approximately 70 billion Guyana dollars to the foreign earnings, and employs 17% of our population. Furthermore, agriculture is crucial for food security and poverty reduction. Since taking office in August 2020, the government has implemented measures and allocated resources required to propel the agriculture sector for poverty reduction and a sustainable development path. And as we continue to invest in agriculture, we have been engaging with farmers, the private sector, our development partners, among others, to listen to their issues and to hear their recommendations so that the plans put forward are the best possible outcome for all involved. In Budget 2020, we outlined our government's commitment to our plan for prosperity. This started with us identifying and addressing the deficiencies of the system, then working to fix these intended to enhance the welfare of our farmers. One of the primary ways of strengthening agriculture is the execution of the agriculture sector budget for 2020. This year, $18.5 billion was allocated to the agriculture sector. This is our government's investment in the development of livelihoods and necessary public goods for the development, such as agriculture research, extension services, climate and price information, drainage and irrigation infrastructure, technical assistance, and farm-to-market access road. While government expenditure is necessary, it cannot finance all the projects necessary. Therefore, increased investment through enhanced international cooperation, private investment, both foreign and local, and public-private partnership are encouraged to increase the coverage of public goods and services, particularly in rural communities. And here I would like to say that only recently, one of the agencies in the Ministry of Agriculture, the Guyana Sugar Corporation, they have published expression of interest for public-private partnership in running the sugar industry in our country. So the government is not only trying to do things by itself, but we are involving the private sector and all stakeholders to come on board so that we can have everyone making a contribution to the development and the prosperity of our country. Private sector investment in agriculture have a strong role to play to aid in the creation of jobs, value addition to primary agriculture products, and introducing technology to farming. Therefore, one priority area of focus will be to support doing business agriculture environment to investment in production, processing, and trade. This will also secure greater competitiveness and economic activity. Let me finish by spelling out my expectation for this session, which will benefit from the presentation of you, the person who are making contribution on this panel. And some of the questions that you must consider in your presentation are, how are we investing in and developing the agriculture sector through the Ministry of Agriculture Work Program, with a specific emphasis on research and extension and marketing? How investing in marketing and trade will develop the agriculture sector? How investing in agriculture systems are ensuring we meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals? What are the issues and opportunities that the ministry should be mindful of in the investment to support the poor? how the private sector is contributing to poverty reduction by investing in agriculture development. Those are a few questions I would like you to consider when you deliver your presentation today. To our panelists, I wish to thank you for your time and participation, and I invite you to give your insight on these points. I thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I was muted there. So let me thank Minister Mustafa for your remarks, your comments on this our theme for 2020 Agriculture Month, investing in agriculture. And Minister, rest assured that I will at the end of it raise those questions again that you've just signaled here in your presentation um, to this panel as to how we move agriculture forward here 2020 and beyond. So now I'll call on Mr. Jarvis, the Chief Technical Officer of the Ministry of Agriculture, um, to talk a little bit about the plans, the projects, and all the other related activities under your watch that can drive agriculture, can create investments in agriculture, and for us to work together through your programs in poverty reduction with through sustainable development. Mr. Jarvis.
Thank you very much, Aditya. Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I will try to be brief so as to leave more time for question and answer. So let us begin by a very brief overview of the key agricultural activities in Guyana. At present, we're talking about sugar at 9%, rice at 20.3%, other crops 30%, livestock 18%, fisheries 11.6%. These are the facts as they are. And as you might have just heard, rice is right up there holding its own. My discussion on the development of the sector in terms of the programs will focus on some of the things that we are doing with donor funding. And I want to talk about the flood risk management project, which is critical for us to have agriculture continuing on the coastal plain. The flood risk management program is one that is operationalizing the issues that came out from the Conservancy Adaptation Program, which is simply a program that looked at all that needs to be done to ensure proper drainage and irrigation on the coast, with special reference to the Conservancy, the East JMHA Water Conservancy. There were about $150 million at the time worth in projects, and we have been working consistently in trying to have them done so that we can ensure, one, we have sufficient water for our agriculture crops. Two, we have sufficient drainage and irrigation for the entire activity. And also, just as important, to make sure that our residents are kept free of water. To that end, we have done work to the tune so far of 10.6 million US dollars. And we are awaiting, in a matter of weeks, to have another $26 million approved, US dollars approved by the World Bank for continued work. The works that were done under the project would have been to upgrade 4 kilometers of the East JMHA Water Conservancy Dam. And even though we say it's an upgrade, if anyone were to go there, they will see that what we have done is build a dam behind the current dam. The additional funding is to extend that to ensure that there is greater certainty that we won't have a flood. The other project we have, which complements this, is the Rural Agriculture Infrastructure Development Program. And this is financed by the CARICOM Development Fund. And under this project, we looked at some communities in Region 4 and one in Region 5. There were 4 communities. And in those communities, we looked at ensuring that the communities had proper rural agriculture infrastructure. We tried to upgrade it. What we did is try to put in several miles of drainage canals. Those that required cleaning were cleaned. Those that were not done were done. We put in pumps. We put in one pump station that is at Horastelling, which will not only help the residents in the project area, but will help the residents in Horastelling and the nearby communities. And the other project is the Sustainable Development Agriculture Development Project. That is IDB funded, and that one is ongoing. That one will see us making massive investments, not only in areas of abattoir, food safety authority, but we will be moving closely to ensure that the wishes, the reality of the Wales Development Authority is achieved. And we have the Hinterland Agriculture Sustainable Development Project, which works in regions 1 and 9. And it's funded by the International Fund for Agriculture Development. And we are expecting that residents in those villages will be able to have the benefit of investments, both from a business perspective and also for community level investments. That we expect to start rolling out in a matter of weeks. And we're looking, hopefully, to start assisting with making the ICT network stronger, so that in this time of COVID, the students who are at home will be able to have some schooling by E. I want to stop there because I know a lot of what I have in mind will come out as the questions are asked. So I just want to stop there and allow the other panelists to speak.
All right. Thanks, George, for the updates. And of course, the role that you and your department, if I may, the ASDU, are playing in agriculture generally in Guyana, and of course, more so working towards our theme for this year, investing in agriculture. Again, like I've said, for those who've joined a bit later, 767 million people globally are still in the extreme poverty level. And this is reported by the FAO. And, in Guyana, we have persons in extreme poverty. I know there are persons still in poverty. And here, I know, I will say this as moderator, that when this team was developed a few mornings after, I was, persons on social media were questioning why, and various platforms were still questioning why are we still speaking about poverty reduction as against not going towards eradication, and those are two words that the expertise in the area and the field of agriculture can also speak about during your presentation, because persons are still thinking reduction in poverty should be a thing of the past. We should be looking for eradicating. But when globally we have some 767 million still in extreme poverty, I think eradication is not an overnight, that's my personal view, it's not an overnight task. It's a huge task. So speaking about those tasks and speaking about poverty reduction, I will still hold our theme. I will now call, I will now ask Dr. Udu Homnot, the CEO of NARI, to enlighten us on what his agency, that is NARI, is doing towards promoting sustainable development, promoting agriculture, and of course, reducing poverty in the areas that he work in. Dr. Homnot, over to you.
Thank you very much, Aditya, for giving me this opportunity. I want to begin by quoting from a World Bank report in 2018, where it is said very clearly that growth in agriculture remains in general 2 to 3 times more effective at reducing poverty than an equivalent amount of growth generated in any other sector. So that already says, why investing in agriculture, it is so important, especially for our in our context.
Dr. Homnot, Doc, I'm not stopping you, but I'll just ask that you tilt your camera a bit. We are only seeing your glasses.
Oh, is it okay now?
It's a bit more up.
Better?
A bit, no, a bit more down towards, All right, good. We can see your face now.
Okay, great. That's fine. Yeah, but you heard me, right?
Yeah. We heard you.
In fact, I was told, apart from, a lot has been said already about investments and in terms of poverty reduction. What I was asked more or less to say a little bit about is about a little bit on the agriculture sector and the road ahead for the next 5 years with respect to investment, with respect to poverty reduction. As Minister pointed out, currently the agricultural sector contributes about 20% to agricultural GDP. This sectoral contribution to GDP we expect would remain or even expand within the next 5 years, despite the significant contributions from the extractive and the oil and gas sectors. With respect to, I believe Mr. Jarvis would have mentioned, in terms of GDP, in terms of agricultural GDP, in 2019, there is estimated that the non-traditional, and of course, I will be dealing specifically with the non-traditional sector, the crop sector, that the non-traditional sector contributed about just over 28% to agricultural GDP. And of course, the other major contributors to agricultural GDP would have been rice and sugar, with contributions of about 20.6% and 18.5% respectively. We recognize that the non-traditional sector, agricultural sector, which is basically everything except rice and sugar, is very important for food and nutrition security in Guyana. And as viewers would know, we are a net exporter of food. We project that the sector, this non-traditional sector, will grow significantly over the next 5 years. The projection is based on our computation on what is happening currently, at least between 10 to 15% on an annual basis. Now, what that means, once that sector grows, it means we will have more income for farmers, and of course, there will be investments in this regard. In terms of being more specific, we would be looking at increasing in terms of acreages under cultivation, increasing productivity of several commodities, and we want to highlight specifically the coconuts, passion fruit, cherries, soursop, the what we refer to as exotic vegetables, pineapples, plantains, etc. Now, who is going to benefit here? Of course, the agro-processing sector. That is the sector which we see growing, and most of us sort of read recently from a release from the Honorable Minister following a discussion or in response to a query from DDL in terms of what they require for the next, what their processing plant would require in terms of quantities of different commodities, especially passion fruit, cherries, pineapples, guavas, and so on an annual basis, which I believe was close to £1 million. Imagine if we were to, in 2019, I believe they would have purchased just over 300,000 pounds. Sorry to use pounds, but that is the data that we have. You know, they purchased about 300,000 pounds. So we are talking there already of if we were to get there, whether it's 2021, 22, or 23, that would be a threefold increase in production. And we have already targeted those commodities in terms of what we would make available in terms of planting materials, especially for passion fruit and the others I mentioned. I know that they are looking specifically, although they haven't eliminated the yellow passion fruit variety, they're looking also at the preferences for the purple passion fruit. And that is something we have already started in terms of producing planting materials for those commodities. We would have released recently a cost of production guideline for different commodities, showing that what if you were to invest on a hectare basis on these different commodities, what the returns would be on an annual basis. And I could tell you that it was a very detailed study, and in terms of the output, that once we can see that investment in these commodities would indeed be very, very profitable. In terms of staying a little bit more in the commodities, of course, coconuts would be given prominence. It is, as we refer to it, as the next frontier crop in Guyana. We currently have about 28,000 acres under cultivation. We expect, or we are saying that this should increase on an annual basis by at least, I believe, 1,000 acres. I'm positive about that because we have work ongoing in several areas in terms of expansion, especially in the Pomeroon, in Laluni area, and on the east coast of Demerara, and in Region 10 as well. Of course, the question in terms of planting materials mention was made before of enhancing nursery production, as well as working with farmers in terms of establishing their own nurseries in the different regions or locations where coconut is currently being produced. And of course, the whole idea of increasing production and productivity through various means, such as fertilization, pest and disease management. We are also we'll be promoting a lot on intercropping, because we know that, you know, the coconut takes time in terms of when you start it, an establishment in terms of getting returns, but we will be showing that if you were to invest and you do intercropping, once there are crops that are planted that have a market, then of course, you know, you can see the benefits of doing that. In terms of the current manifesto of the government of Guyana, and as Minister would have mentioned, you know, one of the emphasis will be placed on the reduction of some of the commodities that we currently import. Just to mention corn and soybean, for example, 21 million US imported. Spices, just over 1 million. And the other commodities. We are working currently on expanding acreages of those in terms of within the budget. The Honorable Minister would have mentioned that incentives would be provided for investors who want to get into large-scale production of commodities such as corn, soybeans, etc. We are looking at, by the next 5 years, to show that we can, if all goes well, we can see a reduction in imports of the commodities I mentioned by at least 50%. I am saying that with respect to spices, for example, we would be self-sufficient within the next few years. You know, we currently import 166 tons, if I'm correct, of turmeric. I know that based on what we would have done recently in terms of having an additional solar dryers established at Fasororo, that can be achieved. Now, who benefits? It's the farming community in those areas, because we're talking about close to $1 million US import in spices, and if once we get there, the farmers would benefit from these interventions that we have. We also recognize that, you know, we have challenges in terms of, you know, the major one, climate change and so forth. And of course, we have our commodities. We have to be competitive with whatever we do. And that is why we have done work in terms of establishing cost of production, etc. So climate resilient agriculture will be high on the agenda as well. We are looking at, in addition to shade house cultivation and water use efficiency, we want to look at utilizing full-fledged greenhouses to promote year-round production of fruit, of especially exotic vegetables in Guyana, and that peak will start, hopefully, not hopefully, will start in 2021. In conclusion, I would like to say that we should note that in order to enhance whatever we'll be doing from now on beyond, we need to transfer the technology, that is the appropriate technology, to our beneficiaries, and that is where the extension services will need to be more, and I will quote the minister here, be more proactive than reactive, and we are working assiduously as we speak to ensure that that happens. Without that support, and as the honorable minister would have said, we would not be able to achieve some of the objectives that we would have set ourselves. So we will also be focusing a lot on providing efficient extension services for beneficiaries. Those are my brief opening remarks. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Homnath, it do seems like you have some more to tell us since that is your opening. All right. So that said, Doc, thanks again for your thoughts, your comments there on this webinar. And again, only over the weekend we were coming down from Berbice on minister's visits, and I was pointing out to our team along the entire coast of Berbice, well, that's Region 6 and in Region 5, along the roadways of the massive landmass that is being utilized by the coconuts, and some left abandoned in many areas. You know, hundreds, or out of that 28,000 acre, maybe a couple thousands of it are abandoned in some places, with bush taking over. You're only seeing the trees from the top part. So again, it's a task out there for us. There's a high demand for that, and I did not miss the fact that you mentioned that your agency is, and you quoted minister, you know, looking to boost that extension component, and that will surely play a very critical role as we move forward in agriculture, both research and extension. And coming to that, we're gonna move over to Dr. Gillian Smith from the FAO, the country rep. Good afternoon, and welcome to this discussion, Dr. Smith. And let us hear what you have to tell us this afternoon on the importance of this month as well, because I know FAO really pay a lot of attention to this month, Agriculture Month, and what is happening from your end. Dr. Smith.
Thank you very much. Are you hearing me well?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. One of the nice things about going late in the program is that everyone has already said everything. And frankly, this has been as much for me, you know, learning and understanding a lot. And I really am always impressed when I listen to the things that are going on in the ministry. So I won't go there. What I'll try to do instead is just make a few brief remarks from a slightly different perspective. So if Guyana is looking at investing in agriculture for poverty reduction, as Dr. Homnath said, we're all on the same page. We do know that improving agriculture is really going to improve the lot of rural communities. However, I want to expand our thinking a little bit today beyond just agriculture as a production. I want to expand our thinking a little beyond food security in the way that many people think of it, which is food production. I want us to talk a little bit about agriculture and agri-food systems. That is basically from farm to fork. Agri-food systems include everything from the people who provide the inputs to the farmers, to the producers, to the people who aggregate, to people who process, distribute, all the way to the end to the consumer. And one of the reasons that I've mentioned all of this is because looking at the entire process, the entire supply chain, whatever you want to call it, gives you the understanding of how important each step is and how important each set of stakeholders is to the others. Farmers cannot produce without the inputs. Farmers' production goes nowhere without the consumers and without the distributors. So it is extremely important when we are thinking about agriculture and we're thinking about rural poverty and reducing it. And I would be a little bit, I've changed the words a little, and I talk not so much about rural poverty reduction, I would talk about wealth creation. The idea here is to understand the full and big picture of what we're talking about. And so that's just one thing that we want to mention. The importance of our agriculture or agri-food systems is they don't just feed us. They don't just provide us with a livelihood, but they're also incredibly connected and interwoven with the global agriculture food systems. It is no accident that every single place practically you go in the world, there's a bottle of soda of a known brand on the shelf. That has a lot to do with marketing, but the bits of all of that soda come from agriculture in one way or another. Sugar coming from Guyana, flavors coming from another country, and so forth. So our agri-food system is very much tied up with what happens with the global agri-food system. And COVID-19 has shown us how the global agri-food system is extremely vulnerable. And it has given us a new understanding of the need for resilience. So if we're talking about that and we're talking about meeting the sustainable development goals, particularly we're talking about achieving zero hunger and achieving zero poverty, our agriculture and our agri-food systems are extremely important. I'm going to just jump really quickly to a few things that I think have already been said by the previous speakers, but perhaps I would like to maybe just bring these and emphasize them. So the first one is we really do need this agri-food approach. We really need to think about all of the linkages, as I have just mentioned. In order to do that, we need policy coherence. If the Ministry of Agriculture has policies of food production that are not coherent with the policies of trade, that are not coherent with the low carbon development strategy, then we are going to run into issues of trying to ensure that we meet our results. So policy coherence right across and all of government approach is very important. The next one I want to mention is shared visioning. There is very exciting information that has been provided here. And I think that it is vitally, vitally important that that becomes part of the public dialogue around agri-food systems. The minister has said quite a bit recently about the vision, where agriculture and where the agri-food systems are going. And I think this is very good, and I think a lot more of that has to happen, because we need all hands on board and we need people all moving in the same direction. The public-private sector partnership is key. And to really emphasize that, it is very important that there is trust and coordination, and the steps that need to happen to make that a reality is the discussion, is the talking together. We need to organize our farmers. We have to start thinking about what we want the agriculture and the agri-food system to look like in Guyana 10 years from now and 15 years from now. What do we want it to look like? And how are the stakeholders who are currently here now going to participate in that? How is a farmer who is working currently with a machete and a hoe going to be able to deliver the agriculture, the transformed agriculture, the vision, this shared vision that has been discussed? And what do we need to do to get that farmer and all of his counterparts on the same path, on the path that is needed to get us there? We also need to try to perhaps think about how to look at those binding constraints and to identify the few key binding constraints and put all the efforts to that. The efforts of the country, the efforts of the government, the efforts of the private sector, the efforts of your development partners as well. We are exactly that, partners in this process, and we're here to support the development agenda that the government has, or the people of Guyana have. And therefore, it's very important for us to be part of that shared vision. I want to talk a little bit about innovation. I think innovation is important. We say it a lot, but we need some really practical ways of making innovation happen. And one of the easiest ways to make innovation happen is to share knowledge and share data. The things that I see and the data I have, when I give it to you with a completely different hat you're wearing and a completely different perspective, it becomes something else. You're able to push it further than I can. This is innovation. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the data collection and data sharing data. Understanding what the status is, the current status of our agriculture sector. We've talked quite a lot about it. Who are our farmers? What are the skill sets that they have? Where's the vision of what we need them to be in order to transform to what we want? Lastly, I just want to make a few points about institutional strengthening. The Ministry of Agriculture, its agencies, and other ministries and agencies within government will have to be fit for purpose of this vision and this strategy that you are looking at down the line. Transformation happens over years, and it starts today and it keeps going. It's important that there is long-term planning, and I mentioned already policy coherence, ensuring that trade matters are included, that the food systems that we're developing are meeting our health needs as well, that they are market-driven, and that they are resilient to the impact of climate change. Extension service was also mentioned, and the extension service moving hand in hand with the farmers is a very good way to move forward. And lastly, I want to just indicate that we need to incentivize agribusiness perspective. Farmers, we keep talking about farmers different from private sector. Farmers are private sector in one way or another. And farmers, we need to move towards this concept of agribusiness entrepreneurs. I'm going to stop there so that we can have, and I'm looking forward to a very round and interesting discussion. Sorry, just before I finish, I want to just mention something that came out of our recent regional conference. Our Director General mentioned we need 4 betters in what we're doing. We need better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smith. And I wish to acknowledge from my part and my end of the very important points that you made in your presentation, and they're excellent, if I may. And I hope that together we all can use what is said here at this forum and this panel to craft the way forward as we are planning for the rest of the year and our 2021 budget as well from the government side, and for the 2020-2030 period. So again, thank you, and I'm sure questions will be, our discussions will be done later. That will come back to you, Dr. Smith, for some answers. If not, persons may want to email or make contact with you otherwise for some guidance on some of these. So for our next person on the panel this afternoon, we have with us Miss Ida Seeley Adams, who is the general manager of the New Guyana Marketing Corporation, and we're going to ask Mrs. Adams, to speak on agro-processing, marketing, and value-added practices as it relates to agriculture and poverty reduction in the ministry, in her agency, and in Guyana at large. So, Ms. Adams, over to you, and thank you for joining.
Good afternoon, Aditya and members of the panel. Are you hearing me clear?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I think the rest are.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me be a part of this panel. I'm truly humbled. And as usual, I'm always delighted to speak about the agro-processing sector. Let me first say, when one refers to sustainable development, it's usually development that meets the needs of today. But more importantly, we should always consider at all costs, we should not compromise the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So while we want to look at sustainable development, whatever we do should not compromise the future generation. Now, from our perspective at GMC, one way we feel we can contribute towards reduction of poverty is through agro-processing. And we've seen the successes over the years in this industry. For us, once an individual is empowered, once an individual has a source of income, and he or she, whether it's a group or an individual, becomes independent, we know the spin-off effects of it. Development in terms of the home, development at a community level. And what we've done at GMC over the years and continue to do has been to aid our agro-processors in transforming their basic idea. Oftentimes they just come into us with an idea. Some of them would have told us they had a dream. So our task is usually to transform their dreams into reality or to make it to fruition. And in so doing, some of the areas we've focused on to really and truly impact on the work that our agro-processors would have done is to focus on product development, to focus on training, innovation, coming up with innovative products so that you can set yourself or be able to compete or stand when it comes to standing alongside other local products and even imported products. So we've, over the years, and we continue even in this year's budgetary allocation, we continue to focus heavily on development. We want consistent products. So to ensure that our agro-processors have consistent products, there are areas, we identify their shortcomings, and oftentimes we collaborate with sister agencies and even within our international partners. One of our sister agencies being the Ghana School of Agriculture. Then we've also focused on the component of marketing, because for us, once you have a product, it doesn't sell by itself. In order to promote, in order to have the spin-off effect of increased markets, in order to have more of our farmers' produce being utilized in terms of raw materials, we recognize there is a need to do a lot on promotion and marketing. And that's where over the years, and we continue to, we've held quite a number of activities. We've partnered with other agencies also, and we're also participated in activities to allow our agro-processors to have that space at no all the expenses are usually borne from our end to promote their product, talk to buyers, talk to potential buyers, have an opportunity to basically showcase what they produce, because we know marketing is quite critical for any product, and especially small scale agro processors. Oftentimes it's difficult for them to spend quite a lot in this particular area. So as the Ministry of Agriculture, GMC, that's one of the areas we place a lot of emphasis on. But not just agro-processing contributes to reduction of poverty. We recognize that Tomnat would have mentioned about exports, would have mentioned about the contribution, Minister would have also alluded to that fact. So we recognize the importance of having our fresh produce and our agro-processed produce exported. And I'm happy to, amidst the COVID pandemic and amidst the difficulties we've had for the greater part of this year, we continue to make strides as it comes to exportation, both regionally and extra-regionally. As a matter of fact, based on our preliminary assessment, I must say, at the end of September, we would have surpassed 2019 exports. So for this to happen, it calls for a lot of coordination and collaboration from our end, the packaging, from the sister agencies such as NARI, or Plant Protection Officer, having to go and inspect the produce as they're prepared for exports, and also to link us, to assist in linking us, the extension officers, with the markets, together with our extension officers from Guyana Marketing Corporation. This, once it continues, once we continue to have our exports and even increase, that will assist our farmers because there will be a ready supply of market. In terms of our plans, we intend to continue with our collaboration. We intend to intensify our training. We intend to continue to look at opportunities for markets. As a matter of fact, as we speak, we're in discourse of some interested buyers for fresh produce in country like the Netherlands. We're dealing with some barriers, language barriers and so forth, but we're still working with them to see if we could get some more of our fresh producers. For instance, ginger is a commodity of interest, and that's where we've got to get increased collaboration, because of the characteristics, for instance, the market is looking at, we will have to step up our game plan to be able to supply the particular market in the quality that we so require. So while those are some of the plans we have, we also have plans in the era of COVID 2019. We recognize that marketing has to be done differently. And thankfully, we would have had a training even lack in terms of social media marketing with some of our farmers and agro-processors. What is the expectation? How do we charter the way forward for the remaining 2020? And even in years to come, new way of doing marketing. So those are some of the areas we have to focus on in terms of marketing. We also have to focus on more virtual marketing participation. For instance, for the remaining of this year, we're hoping to participate in 2 virtual events, which is Trade Investment Convention in Trinidad. And there is also another activity that Caribbean Export is sponsoring, is organizing. So that will give us an idea of the expectation in terms of the virtual platform to do marketing. so that we at GSC can so coordinate activities of such a nature in 2021. I must say the Guyana Shop has been a platform for our agro-processors, again, assisting in reducing poverty reduction. How has it been done? If there is no other place where a new agro-processor can take his or her product once it meets the necessary requirement, the Guyana Shop was one of those places, is one that our agro-processors look forward to. And I would like to quote some figures for our panel. In 2012, October, the auspices of Dr. Leslie Ramsamy, when we reopened the Guyana Shop, it was basically reopened with a new focus where emphasis was placed on finished, ready to sell products. So we were not buying large quantities of sugar and repackaged in small quantities. It was basically having a finished product from an agro-processor in the shelf and made available, and we promote them. So we've grown, and I'm happy to say, based on our interaction in our agriculture business development unit, again, training and development, product development, over the years, we've had increased numbers of new products, which continue to be in our Guyana Shop. For instance, in 2013, we had 69 new products. In 2014, we had 27. In 2015, we had 37. In 2016, 40. And the numbers kept increasing. As a matter of fact, in 2019, we had over 100 products. And although we're going through this pandemic, we continue to have new products in our Guyana Shop. So that speaks of growth. And when we say new products, it meant in most of the cases, it meant a new agro-processor. So this has given an agro-processor an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. It has given the agro-processor or groups an opportunity to become self-sufficient. And so, they are in a better position to meet the needs. Many of them tell us of themselves and even their family. So I think I spoke at length, Aditya, and I will wait for the section that deals with questions in terms of what we are doing at Guyana Marketing Corporation.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ida.
Pleasure.
I was trying to find our next speaker. I hope he's on still. But again, I commend you for the work that is being that's ongoing in the Guyana Marketing Corporation, and especially the Guyana Shop, in promoting local products. I know we still have a far way to go with our local products so that they can reach the US markets, the European markets, and so on. Again, this does not happen overnight. We are all aware of that in the sector. It does call for quite reaching some standards, reaching all the regulation, meeting all regulations, and so on. And we have to, as a group, as a team, as a ministry, and those in agriculture, work with our agro processors, work with our farmers to move the products and to the level that where these international countries, these international players will allow them on their shelves. I'm not saying that work is not being done, but all I'm saying is that we have to continue pushing for that to happen and to get these products, even if it's raw products sometimes. For example, you mentioned ginger. They will have standards. Farmers may say, oh, this is how we harvest it and this is how we will sell it. That does not always sell when the big importers are looking to buy of certain quality, certain size, certain date freshness, and all of that. So we have to work with farmers and guide them based on the requirement. A lot of time, one of our problem in Guyana is we want to produce as farmers and give it to the market. and expecting that the market will pay a price for it and accept it. That mindset has to change. We have to change that. The entire team that is promoting and pushing agriculture in Guyana, including our sister agencies, including our foreign, our international agencies here. We all have to push for that. That mindset has to change, and I know for sure that once we can change that mindset, that we must not push what we want for the consumer, we must work with what the consumer demand and what the consumer require. I am quite sure if we are to twist the table or turn the table a little to that angle, we will have a way better sector in Guyana when it comes to agriculture and production. So I know I was looking for Dr. Lowell Porter from the Small Business Bureau, somebody I keep referring a lot of people to for the past few weeks. Um, I'm not sure if I'm seeing him here, but Dr. Porter, there you are. Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to our panel discussion, this webinar this afternoon. I know I've been sending quite a few requests to the Small Business Bureau for those persons who want to start a business. And I am also encouraging from the Ministry of Agriculture level, I'm encouraging those people. A lot of letters come in here. We want to start a farm with 2 sheep and a goat. We want to start a farm with a chainsaw. We want to start with a still a weeding machine. And we have a lot of requests. Our agencies know of those requests, but we want them to happen in the formal way. We want those requests to go through the system. Government can't go, we can't go in our pockets at the Ministry of Agriculture every day to help every one of those requests. But if they were to come through a formal system and mechanisms such as yours, then I'm quite sure we would record the amount of investment, small business that is taking place in Guyana. And I guess I'll at this point I hand it over to you, Dr. Porter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. You're right. I'm seeing those little notes coming every day, asking for some kind of support. Today, what I want to do is just to tell you a little bit of the Small Business Bureau and how we fit into the whole scheme of investing in agriculture. I was looking at the 17 Sustainable Goals, Development Goals, and I think that agriculture fits right there for all 17, every one of them from 1 to 17, right? Interesting. And I believe Guyana is well poised in that sense also, because we have the land, we have the desire, we need some more support to make it happen. And you're right, the government cannot do everything. The people out there, the farmers, they have to find ways also to make this happen. So the Small Business Bureau is an agency under the Ministry of Tourism, Industry and Commerce. It came out of the Small Business Act of 2004. And since then, we've been working to develop small businesses. And I believe it was Dr. Gillian Smith who said that, we have to start thinking about agriculture as agribusiness. And I think that's very, very important. Farmers have to look at themselves as, well, this is a business I'm running. They need to understand what is income, what is expenditure, what is, who do I keep records? If I want to make a plan, if I need to go to the bank, what I need. And we don't want them to feel that they are alone. The Small Business Bureau is here to help you through that process. We have 3 basic types of training, which is the small business management, so how to run your business. We also do training on record keeping. Record keeping is so important. Many of those people say, I have a chainsaw, I have, what else they have, Aditya? All the stuff that they have. And then when you go and you sit down, well, what is it that you want to do with all the stuff that you have? Oh, I want to make money. Yeah, that's all. They want to make money, but they don't know how to do it. So we've developed the record keeping so that you can understand your business from the beginning, your business plan writing. We also support you with that. Also, the Small Business Bureau is very understanding of the difficulties that small business face. So we interact with different agencies to support them in their, let's say, in the challenges. So for example, one of the biggest challenges that we have here in Guyana for small business is access to finance, right? How do I start my business? So you've done all the training, you know how to the basics of running a business, but you know what? I still need money. How do I get that money? So the Small Business Bureau has grants, right? Small business grants. And, it's just, don't, I tell people it's not free money. A grant is not just money for you to take and enjoy yourself. You have a responsibility once that money is given over to you. And we, the Small Business Bureau, when we hand that over to you as a grant, or if it comes in the form of a credit guarantee through the banks, the two partner banks that we have here in Guyana. So how that works is if you want a loan, and most times when you go there to the banks, they want to know, well, what are you putting into it? So as a small business owner, most times you do not have the collateral. So the Small Business Bureau will step in now and say, look, we think this is a great project, it's viable, we will support it. And in doing so, we are putting up 40%, or depending on what it is, up to 70% guarantee for that client. So that really helps them. All right. So that's one of the ways. We also do the review I said about the policies that affect small businesses. Then we are responsible for monitoring and reporting on the 20% procurement, government procurement. Now this is still new because it has not been launched yet, where 20% of all the government spending goes to small businesses. So it has to be approved small business, and we can help you through the process of becoming approved small business. And then you can bid in government projects depending on how the bidding process is set up. The Small Business Bureau is also responsible for providing information on the small business sector. So we're still trying to collect data, formulate data on the how many small businesses are in Guyana, how many small businesses are per region, how many are into agro processing, just business processes, professional business services, tourism. So all of that information we are developing and tracking. Some of our programs that we have to support this is we have this. I spoke about the grant and the credit guarantee, and very soon the business incubator centers, one in Belvedere in the Quarantine and the other one in Lethem, are going to be launched. Those centers are also to support small businesses through the development, support training, coaching, mentorship, and so that they can feel that they have the support even far away from Georgetown. The other thing is that because we're so far away, we are in Georgetown, to many of the other communities, we have developed help desks. So we have help desk in all the regions except Region 1, which we haven't been able to establish as yet. So what happens at the help desk? Any person who's desirous of setting up a business or needing support or need information can go to those help desks in the regions and share their whatever issue, whatever concern, or whatever need they have. If those are not being met at the help desk will in turn call the central office, head office in Georgetown, and we can take it from there. So the idea is to help every entrepreneur who has a viable business and who is determined to succeed to be successful. Another thing is that, we, through the financing, we think about what are we financing? The objective is to create capacity. I think somebody mentioned that there might be opportunities for external markets. One of the biggest problems with the external markets is that most times we do not have the capacity. So somebody says, well, I want to buy your ginger. Okay, so we have the ginger, we have all the right quality, the sizes. But then he says, well, I want 2 containers a week. Uh-oh, that's a big problem. We can't do 2 containers a week. So we want to be able to support small businesses in that mechanism of increasing capacity, increasing job opportunities, modernizing your equipment, your machinery. So all those are ways that the Small Business Bureau can help you. So I know that we have a very short time, but if you have any questions, we'll deal with those later. And this is all I want to share with you, that you can contact the Small Business Bureau. The website is sbb.gov.gy. Right, a lot of information is on there. We've updated that website. We have the phone numbers of 226-8120. Right, and you can always email us also at info@sbb.gov.gy, or if you're looking for funding, it's very simple. You just put funding@sbb.gov.gy, and we will answer those emails for you and put you in the right direction. So I hope that we can have a very good discourse here today, and it can be very productive. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot, Dr. Porter. And I will again reiterate the point that, from our end, we are encouraging those small business and persons who are interested in small business to go through your agency, to have their business registered, to have them guided properly, so that they understand that it's not just collecting a grant, buy a machine or buy a few layer birds or pigs or sheep and start, but it's to do it in a business-like approach, and to do it in a manner in which they will, they can keep the records, like you said, and they will know at which point they have they break even, and which point they are starting to make a profit. And that is critical as we develop a business or any small business, as a matter of fact. So once again, thank you. I know we have a few persons from the private sector who are on. Our next agenda item on the discussion is is open to the member of the private sector to tell us what they are expecting, to tell us of their contribution as well to agricultural development. After which, we are going to George, we're going to welcome you back, and then we will take questions and answers. For those who may have questions, you can drop them in the chat. I will see them. I will raise them with the panel right here, or if you wish, you can come on yourself and raise those questions. So I'll ask. I see Mr. Omdeo is on. I'm not seeing all the names right now in front of me, but I'm sure, I'm seeing that one, and so we'll open the floor for the private sector to come on board and tell us what they're expecting. So anyone from the private sector. I'm wondering if I should do this. I'll take it once, I'll take it twice. Mr. Omdeo, I know you're there. I'm not sure if you're in front of your computer though.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm in front of the computer, but
all right, go right ahead.
I'm not going to go on video because I'll tell you some other time. Do forgive me. I'm not prepared for this, but I saw it very late and I joined in. And I think it's an excellent venture on your part. As an input supplier into agriculture, we of course would like to encourage the increased production, which obviously will benefit not only the farmers, but we, the input providers. Just to say that apart from, we do provide some technical advice to our customers, and one thing we're working on right now is to get our suppliers to provide much more, to be more involved in agriculture in Guyana. And actually, that was the plan for this year, which has not come about because of COVID. But we are in the process now of putting together some programs, which I'm glad I'm part of this, because I can get your assistance in getting an audience so that they can make their contribution towards agriculture in Guyana. I've been keeping them updated on what's happening, and they're of course all excited in what's happening in Guyana in agriculture. So I don't have any questions at this stage. I'm sure we'll talk some more. And please feel free to call anytime you need us or intervention in anything. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Umdale, thanks. And of course, yeah, we are here to lend support in whatever way we can from our end. And I'm quite sure the agencies will stand ready to work with you as a member of the private sector. And of course, an input supplier, which is critical to agriculture and agricultural development. I know for sure we have a video to play because Mr. Sham Nakta um, is currently on another, is taken up somewhere else, and we're trying to get him to get his video on. Sorry, but I am not sure if our IT is prepared to have it. Let me let. All right. Give me a few minutes here, please, and let me see if I can just send this back and forward it back to this guy email. 1 second.
Ditya, may I make a point
Great.
while you're doing that?
All right, great. Thank you. I finished that part, but go right ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to pick up on two things. One was what Dr. Porter said about small businesses and the importance of a small business bureau. I think one of the things, we talk about a lot about what is going on, but I think there's also a real sense of urgency for many reasons in our understanding that we need to move more, we need to be more bold, and we need to push a little bit more, so that we need to scale up a lot of the good things that are already happening. How do we move them from, 20 or 30 small progressive agri-processors to 100, 200 agri-processors? How do we move it from, products that are in our Guyana shops and in our local supermarkets to products that are all over the Caribbean? So there's a real sense of urgency to do that, I believe. The second thing I wanted to pick up on was the point made by Mr. Omdeo about private sector. I mentioned that innovation is important, and I said data sharing was one way to create innovation. Another way to create innovation is private sector. People facilitating new ideas and allowing those new ideas to grow and to become adapted and also to become adopted. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again, Dr. Smith. So now we're going to have a presentation from the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association, JMHA, by Mr. Sham Nakta. So I'll ask that we listen to what they have to say at that end. I know the association is taking care of quite a few number of agro-process and other agro-processors and other private entrepreneurs in Guyana. So I'll let them over to Sham. I think the volume needs to be on, Corey. We're still not getting the volume. Rosalinda, next time we'll have to ask Sham to come live. No song, no song.
Still?
Mm-hmm.
What?
I am really not sure why this is why the volume is not coming on, but I've just asked the IT guy to check on it for me. Corey, I was told to ask you if you have enabled the sound.
Sham Nocta, President of the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association. First of all, I wish to extend our appreciation to Minister Zulfikar Mustafa and team from the Ministry of Agriculture for inviting us to be part of this webinar under the theme for the Agriculture Month 2020 activities and titled Investing in Agriculture for Poverty Reduction and Sustainable Development. This call for prioritizing agriculture is coming at a time when food security is perhaps one of the top 3 global issues today. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization, currently about 850 million people are hungry, and every third person is malnourished. The challenge of food security is further threatened by increased population and urbanization, limited access to arable land, decreasing freshwater resources, and the consequences of climate change. Society's advancement is also seeing changing dietary demands, and which is further challenging many countries' ability to be self-sufficient with food. The international community, in recognizing the need for action to address food security as part of broader sustainable development objectives, has given priority to agriculture as one of the focus areas. When we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, and specifically goal number 2, which makes the call to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture, and for countries to take urgent action by mainstreaming food and agriculture into national development strategies. These are clear international priorities and guidance for action at the country level. And the FAO has been advocating for 5 main areas of action by countries. Firstly, increasing productivity, employment, and value addition in food systems. Secondly, protecting and enhancing natural resources. Thirdly, improving livelihoods and fostering inclusive economic growth. Fourthly, enhancing the resilience of people, communities, and ecosystems. And the 5th point, adapt governance to new challenges. Many countries have adopted these principles as part of national actions, and Guyana is no exception. In a relatively short space of time, government has already demonstrated that agriculture is one of its main priorities. From a suite of budget measures in the recently passed 2020 budget, which have been aimed at providing a stimulus to the agriculture sector, as well as other priorities, for example, relooking at the trade policy and a general trust to remove barriers to agriculture and value adding. So clearly, government is demonstrating its commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals by investing in agriculture. And we are hopeful that this will continue, and we certainly look forward to the measures in Budget 2021, as well as other policies and actions. I'm also pleased that there has been an indication that the low carbon development strategy will be introduced, perhaps with increased focus on supporting economic diversification, climate resilience, and protecting Guyana's natural resources, which will enhance our ability to earn from payments for forest climate and ecosystem services, as we have done under the Guyana-Norway partnership. Previously, the LCDS would have supported small and micro enterprises through grant funding, including those operating in agriculture and agro-processing. And under the LCDS, there was a strong push for climate-smart agriculture by promoting technologies such as drip irrigation, among others, while also looking at how Guyana can enhance agriculture production on a large scale without cutting down forests, and by putting drainage and irrigation and transport infrastructure in areas where you have significantly large expanses of arable lands. We hope that such efforts will be enhanced in a new LCDS so that all who are involved in agriculture, from small farmers to large companies, from the coast to the hinterland, can be able to enhance their production and productivity across the value chain, so that we can see agriculture realizing its potential, even as we continue to pursue opportunities in oil and gas. In terms of the private sector, while government has an important role to play in growing agriculture, I believe the private sector also has a critical role. While initially much of the GMHA's focus has been on agro-processors, and mainly medium and large agro-processors, in recent years, we have shifted our focus to embrace small and micro enterprises, especially those involved in agro-processing and across the country, so as to ensure that our focus is one whereby we're encompassing the wider value chain in agriculture. Our Uncapped initiative has helped showcase many SMEs and their products, and the capacity development provided by JMHA has allowed several of these SMEs to gain lucrative contracts and regional and international markets. In this period of COVID, we have commenced a project to move the Uncapped initiative to a digital space through a web portal, which will showcase products and connect suppliers with the market, essentially providing a digital market space. You may recall that recently, the GMHA, in collaboration with the IDB, we were able to convene a successful webinar in September of this year, and which focused on opportunities for strengthening the value chain and expanding agriculture. The outcomes of this webinar will feed into the collaborative arrangements between the GMHA and the Ministry of Agriculture, so that we can continue to advance our work in progressing the agriculture sector. In this regard, I want to extend our appreciation to Minister Mustafa, who had put forward the idea of setting up a joint working group between the GMHA and the ministry. This group is meeting monthly and has established a matrix of key issues and actions which need to be addressed. And I want to say that we are fully committed to this initiative, as it is a reflection of public-private partnership and an opportunity for a proactive approach to address issues in the sector, as well as a useful coordinating mechanism. While time will not permit me to get into details on some of the critical issues and barriers, I wish to flag several, and among these are issues such as access to finance, technology and technological transfer, infrastructure, training and capacity development, and market access. These are some of the key issues that we need to work collectively to address. And as it regards markets, the GMSA continues to call for more space within national procurement for locally manufactured goods, and especially our agro-processed goods. This is critical at a time when businesses, and especially SMEs, have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic and are looking for a foothold to get their businesses back on track. I'm pleased that the ministry has responded positively to this in relation to our products. And very soon, the GMSC will be engaging the ministry Made in Guyana brand. In closing, I once again wish to commend the ministry for convening this webinar and bringing into focus the links between agriculture, food security, and sustainable development. Investing in agriculture is certainly a theme that the private sector embraces. We see this as not only an economic opportunity, but also a chance to address issues such as food security and sustainability. Guyana has an opportunity to continue to demonstrate its leadership credentials in this area, and the private sector is prepared to play its part as a collaborative partner. I therefore wish to extend best wishes for a successful webinar today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sham, for those encouraging words and what is happening from your end. And I know GMSA will always have a list for, things that they require to get done. But I just want to at this point in time, we have a few more minutes remaining from this. From I see PS is telling us in the event that this expires, but we have a few more minutes remaining. I know we have had a schedule here of 3:15, 3:30, I think, and I do not want to go past that. I think our session, the discussion has been quite informative in many ways, and I will ask that we're all connected by email or somewhere or the other, that we share our thoughts and continue sharing our thoughts via email and otherwise. I know George did mention about the private public partnership earlier. I do not know if you want to say anything more on it, but I've spoken to PS on this already, and I will, on my part, I don't know, George, are you there still? If you wish to come in.
Aditya, thank you, but I think we can go straight to question and answers, and hopefully questions will come out that will bring out my little presentation.
All right, I was just watching the time, so I was hoping some persons ask questions in between of the in the chat. I did receive questions from my end here. One of the persons asked, where is Guyana on the scale of poverty reduction? It's let's say a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being close to achieving the goal and 1 being far. So that's one question. We have another question that Guyana is well endowed with every kind of food, livestock, fish, vegetables, and so on. We can save billions of dollars in revenue from imports. And why is it that we are still importing certain foods and foods that are similar in nature that we can get right here. So those are two questions already. And research and development is an important element in agriculture. What are the government's plan to encourage and facilitate greater R&D and helping small farmers and agro-processors develop and expand their products? So these are three that I have right now, and anyone can touch on them. I think there is already a link there. PS has sent a link in the event that this one expires. I'll just ask that we copy and paste that one by time somewhere so we can get it.
Aditya, the question that is asked about why we still importing, would you like me to attempt that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Guyana happens to be a net exporter of food. And we also exercise, the administration allows folks to have their choice. And there's no barrier officially. What one hopes is that Guyanese, we ourselves, will start being conscious of the fact that when we import, we are actually buying and putting money into someone else's pocket. We also need to continue with our education system. Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for this also, in having folks understand that foreign does not necessarily mean better. And in many, many cases, foreign is actually inferior. It's just that they have a better marketing of the activity. I always like to put this one forward. Who would have thought that we would have, in the first instance, been drinking a drink that's made from bitter aloes, and in the second instance, that we'll be paying money to import it from other countries. But because it is well packaged and well marketed, it's a big seller here. So the short answer to that question is, we've got to market the buy local, Guyana brand. I think GMC and the Private Sector Commission, JMHA, will be rolling that out shortly. But Guyanese must also make a conscious effort to support Guyanese markets. Thank you.
All right, great, George. And I am with you on that one. Yeah, I said I'm with you on that one. That we have to, make that choice ourselves. From an individual standpoint, I try as much as I can to shop local. So almost if you're in my pantry, it's almost everything local in there, from the coffee to the oils, to our locally produced beans and every other thing. So I try to keep that, but we want to encourage more people in Guyana, like you said, to join in that manner. So I've had the other question there. I'm not sure if Dr. Homnot will tackle this one with what are the plans to encourage and facilitate greater R&D to help small farmers and agro-processors develop their products. I know you did cover a lot on R&D earlier and extension, but Dr. Homnot.
Yeah, if I may, we are working on this with R&D, because we're how it works. It is not something that we would invent. Of course, I heard the question and the response from Mr. Jarvis. Now let us look at the what is being imported. That is where we have to have the base in terms of if we were to sectionize it. We look at, I'm not saying that, about fresh produce, there is some of it, yes. And I mentioned that we're working on those, but a lot of it has to do with the processed ones, the juices, the chips and whatever. So that is where I can't speak much about the processing, but I know that Mr. Nocta did speak about that a few minutes ago, and the efforts that are being put into that enterprise. But I know that a lot of efforts are going into the R&D aspect of it. I mentioned that we are working on these new crops, for example. In terms of reducing imports, we have to develop necessary packages, the technological packages, because we have to know which ones. There are so many varieties of, let's say, potatoes, onions, etc. We have to develop those packages, and then, as I said, um, we have already made some projections. We will get some. Of course, we also depend on technical assistance and so forth, which is forthcoming. And that is where the work of extension, research extension, will follow, and it will include, as we say, no one is omitted. It will include the small farmers. In fact, the feedback is also relevant. The feedback from the extension services in terms of what are the issues, that the small farmers or whoever are experiencing, whether it's a new pest or whether there's a pest infestation and so forth. And that is where the research, the feedback drives the research activities. And that goes across the spectrum, including the rice and the sugar sectors. A lot of research is also ongoing in rice, in terms of developing new varieties and so forth, improving on the production and productivity, which is something that we also, I mentioned, production, apart from production, productivity is very, very crucial, because that is the only time we can be competitive, because there's no use we produce something here and it's cheaper to import it. So that is why we are emphasizing on productivity, and that is where a lot of the focus would be in terms of how do we increase productivity in ways that the farmers can utilize.
All right, Dr. Humnot. And again, you know, at the end of the day, I captured your latter comments there. All of what we do has to boil down to what the farmer can use, what the farmer can utilize, and what the farmer and the output that they can get from putting in those. So again, to the question with the R&D, it is critical for agriculture in Guyana, and we will at our level continue to push for R&D to be involved at every step. On policy level, I know I will raise this one with Minister. I think he stepped out, but what are some of the priority policies Guyana should focus on to move agriculture sector forward? I will share that one with Minister himself, and we'll get an answer for that one and share it back with the person who asked. I am not sure if Dr. Smith, can touch on the first question. Um, on the scale of poverty reduction, 1 to 10, with your expertise and with all the data you may have, um, you know, where we might be, and anyone else on the panel, as a matter of fact, can touch on this. But surely, if we were to put an average there, as it relates to poverty reduction, where we are from 1 to 10.
Um, I think it's maybe a little challenging to put it on a scale of 1 to 10. What I can tell you from an IDB report fairly recently, they had quoted that poverty rate in Guyana had moved from 43% in 1992 to 36% in 2006. And that is the last year that the household survey data is available on poverty. What I do want to say, however, about poverty is that it tends to be, as we know, intergenerational. It moves and is inherited from one generation to the next. And it's very important to break that cycle so that people see from generation to generations their families improving their lot in life. One of the ways to do that we all know in the Caribbean, that we've all embraced already, is education. Education is very important and always has been. But I think in terms of farming communities as well, particularly because we do not want to continue the trend that we are seeing of farmers, the average age of farmers becoming older as younger people tend to leave agriculture behind, we need to look at the kind of multidimensional support that is very important for agriculture and rural communities. We have to find ways to meet all of the different social and economic needs of rural persons to make rural life attractive, to make sure that people can make a decent and quality living in rural areas. So that is not just the Ministry of Agriculture and not just the technical services that the Ministry of Agriculture can provide. That is a whole of government approach.
Thank you very much.
Aditya, can I get just one sentence in?
Go ahead.
Well, maybe more than two. The fact is, I will want to touch on poverty per se, because that calls for special definitions and so on. But I want to talk a little bit about hunger. And my sentence is, Guyanese have a very strange way of considering food. Guyanese person will eat one hand of banana, half of soursop, 4 orange, 2 mangoes, 4 awara, and then say, no, I need for the day. Because
I hope these people are not related to you, George.
But our concept of food, and that's why we need to look at it. Our concept of food in Guyana, it has to be rice or roti, right, wrong provision or cassava bread. So in many cases, when persons are classified as being hungry, not all, but in many cases, they may not have access to the traditional things we call a meal, but they are eating. I just wanted to show that as a sense.
All right. Thank you, George. Again, those of us who are in the field and deal and touch bases with people on a daily basis, we know exactly where you're coming from.
Sorry, if I could just quickly add something there, and we won't go on with this, but I just wanted to make the point as well about hunger. I think it's very important what George said. We have to understand there are people who are absolutely hungry, but perhaps, well, in Guyana, it is probably a small number. There are people, however, who are not eating balanced diets. And we know with COVID, with the loss of livelihoods and reduced amount of money that people are able to bring into their families, people are making hard choices. They are not having balanced meals. They are having meals that are largely made up of the cheaper, high carb, high fat, high salt and sugar variety that fills your belly, but doesn't really create a healthy life for you. And as you go on, we will see, if this doesn't change, we'll begin to see that playing out in our health system with higher levels of non-communicable diseases such as obesity, high blood pressure. So there is a very tight and very close connection between that nutrition and that hunger and what we're eating and the rest of the sectors of our society.
And again, Doc, that goes right back to our health system in the long run, and putting a lot of pressure on that system as well. But one person would have asked Dr. Porter, what incentives are there for small business to invest in technology as businesses to support farmers? So it's investing in technology as a business to support farmers.
What I will say is that we treat all businesses the same. So if it's a case where they are searching for new technology, they're upgrading their facility or their machinery, they can just come into the Small Business Bureau, and we can help them. You know, if they don't have a business plan, we'll help them. We don't write the plan for them, but we will help them. The thing is, the Small Business Bureau does not provide you with the loan itself. What we do is provide a guarantee. We put you on to our banks that we work with, and together, we, as a Small Business Bureau, the client and the bank, we try to find a solution so that you can have what you are looking for.
All right, and I hope that that would have answered that question. So once again, I am not seeing any other questions or um,
Aditya,
chats. Hello.
I would just like to basically add to what Dr. Umnat would have said regarding research and development, because
Go ahead.
it's critical, not just from GMC's end, but in terms of development of innovative product, and also in terms of expanding the reach of local products that we already have. And this is where heavy reliance will have to be on sourcing assistance technically from our partners. We at GMC, we usually engage our partners, and we would have had some technical assistance, but specifically in terms of research and development, I think the time has come for us to have this enhanced partnership. We have been working with JMHA, and we do meet quite often. Another meeting is slated for Wednesday to chart the way forward, to prioritize the areas that we need to focus on research and development, because the interest is there. And oftentimes our agro-processors just do not know how to produce that product. And that's where the research and development comes in, for us to source those technical expertise and capitalize on the abundance of raw materials that we have, that we can so transform into agro-processed products. So that's where we'll need assistance from international partners, and also in collaboration with the private sector.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ida, for those salient points. I think this is where I usually would ask if there are any other comments from anyone else as we wrap up, because our time, stepped out of our time a bit, and I don't want to keep us here, um, you know, above our time limit. So again, I will ask if there are any closing remarks from you guys. If there aren't, then we'll bring the curtains down for this afternoon's discussion. So I take it that there aren't any other comments. So once again, on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, and the entire team here, for those persons who would have joined through Facebook or through the link that was sent out, we wish to thank you for joining us in this discussion. And I wish to again thank all the panelists, all the persons who would have presented and shared their thoughts and views this afternoon on this webinar, Investing in Agriculture for Poverty Reduction and Sustainable Development. Once again, this is Aditya Prasad thanking all of you, and do have a pleasant rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.